Good morning, everybody. Today, we're going to do something slightly different. We're going to make charts, graphs in Excel. Excel is probably the most widely used product package to create charts. As you'll see, they're pretty easy to do. It's very flexible. It has lots of nice features to it. The hardest part about Excel and charts is getting the data in the way that Excel wants it. And once you have it in a nice little table, then life is good, and you can pound these things out left and right. Okay, so today, on the checklist in that lab demo 4 that's in my outbox, no functions to learn today, oddly enough. You're going to have to learn how to make 4 kinds of charts: a pie chart, a column/bar chart. They're essentially the same thing with one difference. Line scanner, same idea. There's just one minor difference between those two, and a stock plot. And I'm going to show you a couple of tricks on getting data from the internet, and so we can make some charts out of that sort of stuff. So what you have to turn in by the beginning of lab next week is from tutorial 4, case problems 3 and 4. This time there'll be just one drop box. So when you make your submission, make sure you put both attachments on it. Don't send me two submissions, because I only grade the last one, and you're only going to get 50% credit if you split it amongst submissions. Okay? All right. So the thing about graphs that you have to remember as you go through this is that Excel and most graphing packages actually give you more than you need for an effective graph. The best kinds of charts are the charts that are the simplest. So anytime you can take stuff away from a chart and still retain its original meaning, that's a good thing. And you want to be ruthless about that, and you want to just boil it down to its essence, because it makes it easier for people to remember. It means they'll also remember it longer. They'll remember it correctly, more likely, all that sort of stuff. We use graphs to make a point. Here's the story I'm trying to tell. Here's the thing I want you to remember. I'm going to make sure that you remember it by giving you a picture, because people remember visual information more than remember text and numbers. So we can do that sort of stuff. And to do that, the most effective way is to make sure the chart is as simple as possible. So when you're done with the chart, I had this little single-page test that I talk about all the time. If you could put that chart out on a blank piece of paper, nothing else, no text, no anything else around it, and hand it to somebody, and they understand what that chart means within a few seconds, then you've done a good job. Okay. So when you're taking stuff away from a chart, you keep thinking about that, saying, well, I don't need this, I don't need that, because I can still remember. Take it away. Be ruthless. Clean it up as much as possible, and you'll have a much more effective chart. All right, so let's get down to cases. Pie charts. On the next tab over, pie charts. Pie charts are the simplest kind of chart to make, and so you want them for the simplest kind of story that you can think of. Pie charts are for when you want to talk about the breakdown of a group into categories. So like what percentage of Geneseo students are freshmen, or what percentage of students of Geneseo are from out of state, that sort of stuff. You want just a few categories, and you're talking about proportions or percentages. When you've got that kind of situation, a pie chart's what you want. So we're going to make a couple of them here this morning. There's a web link here that I've embedded, Box Office Mojo, and if I click on it, it should. Yeah, it should. Yep. Takes me to this website that has all sorts of information about movies, their gross, how many tickets they sold, that sort of stuff. So if you're, you like to analyze this kind of, information, this is a good place to go, because it puts it in a format that's easy enough to extract into Excel. Most of these websites, if you go to and try to find out, like the top grossing movies for 2008 or something like that, they'll have them in some embedded in text, and it takes you forever to get the information out. Anyway, so the story I want to tell here this morning is biggest movie studios for 2012. Okay. Who are they? What's their market share? That sort of stuff. So on my web page, or here. Okay. So I know from past experience, if I scroll down this thing, they have it broken down by studios. So I'll just click there. And there's the stuff I want. beautiful. So I could, type it, just look at that, type it into my spreadsheet, or I could try to copy and paste. But there's a better way to do it. If they don't give you, oftentimes these days when you go to these websites, they'll give you an option to download it as an Excel spreadsheet. If they don't give you that, and it's in a nice table like this, there's another trick you can use. So I'm just going to copy this URL, this web address, and go back to Excel. And on the Data tab, up on the ribbon, there's a Data tab. And under that, there should be, external data. You might just see external data, or if you see it like this, from the web is what we're looking for. And Excel has its own little internal browser. It's not a very good one, but it has one great feature that I'm going to take advantage of here this morning. And so now I'm just going to paste that address in that I copied from my normal browser and go to it. It doesn't have a great search feature. It doesn't have much of anything except this thing I want to show you. So I usually do it that way. Find it in my regular browser, come in here, paste it in here. Now, the difference between this and an ordinary browser is see these little yellow boxes here? That says that the way they built the web page, Excel understands it and can scrape the data and bring it right into your spreadsheet, nicely lined up in columns and rows and all that sort of stuff, so you don't have to do any editing to it. So the table that I want is this one down here. So I just click on that little yellow box, and I should get a green check mark which says I want to download that or I want to import it. And so I can go through and pick out all the different tables I want to import. I just want this one. And then I go import, and then I'm going to tell it, I'm going to pick a cell, I don't know, like pick a cell someplace over there, some blank area. And so that's where it's going to, that'll be the upper left-hand corner of the table that it's importing. And then I just say OK, and there it is. Okay. And I can analyze it. Now, there's a second important feature here. This actually embedded a web query into the spreadsheet. It's behind the scenes. You can't see it, but it's there. And what that means in practical terms is that every time I open this workbook, it's going to go back to that table and get a fresh copy. Okay. So for this, obviously the numbers aren't going to change much for 2012, but if I was tracking 2013, there's a 2013 table that's equivalent to that, and it's up to date. They update it every Tuesday, I believe it is. So that I could open this and would pull in all the box office numbers from that weekend and stuff, so I'd have the new data there. So I wouldn't have to go, now that this thing's set up this way, I would never have to go back and that again. I could just open up my spreadsheet and I'm ready to go. Okay, so that's if you can do it this way, this is a great way to do it. Anyway, so I've got this stuff. All right, now then, to build a chart, if you take a few extra seconds and build yourself a little table that has the information in it, label the rows, label the columns, Excel will take advantage of all that stuff, and it'll make it much easier and much quicker to build the spreadsheet. So we'll spend a little bit more time up front and save a lot of time on the back end. So I don't need market share because Excel will re-percentage everything for me. So I'm going to just delete that. I don't need that. I do need that. I don't need this. So I'm just going to do that. What you want is just a nice little table that has blank rows, columns around it. So I'm just dragging this stuff down here. So there's the start of my table, right? Like that. Now, a pie chart should never have more than 8, 10 pieces to it. Wedges, slices, whatever you want to call them. In fact, the fewer the better here. So, and there's 120, 140 different studios in this list. Obviously way too much. So let's cut this down to a reasonable size. Looking through this, I picked 2013 anyway. All right, so we'll just go through the top 6. So that means I want to stick a blank in here. Or I could copy and paste this, however you want to do this. But what we're looking for is so now I've got my nice little table like that. Okay, there's a set of blank cells all the way around it, so that's called a data region. And that's the hard part about making this chart. Okay. So then all you have to do is pick any cell in that region, doesn't matter which one. Then you can go to Insert Pie Chart, and we'll just stick with the ordinary pie chart. And there's my chart. Okay. Now, there's some things we can do to make this a much more effective chart. All charts need a good title. You should spend some time thinking about it because it's the thing that gives context, background information, so people can understand what they're trying to interpret. And people will always look at a title in a chart. So we'll just call this Biggest Studios for 2013. That's what I actually downloaded, so we'll just do that one. Okay. Second thing, you want to keep the focus on the graph, the picture, as much as possible. You want to minimize the amount of text on the edges so that people can focus on it and understand it. So I'll show you how to label those wedges, and then we can get rid of all that text on the side to clean this thing up and make it look even better. So I'll just click on the graph someplace in there. That makes that an active thing. And then I can go up. See, now when we've done that, we've got new tabs up here on the ribbon. And these all have to do with charting. And so I'll go to Layout. And first of all, this is called the legend over here. We can just get rid of that by saying None. That also centers the graph, which is generally pleasing to the eye. And we've got rid of all that extra text. Now we need to we've taken too much away because obviously people don't know what blue means or purple means. So under data labels, we can pick what we want. And all of these things, you can go down to this thing called More. It's usually at the bottom of the menu there. That gives you complete control over that part of the chart. Okay. So label options. We don't want values. Generally speaking, graphs should have very few numbers in them. Graphs are not about precision. Graphs are about impressions. And all we really care about here is all we really want to know is who's blue, who's red, and that sort of stuff. So we can do that by clicking on category name. Okay. So now that's good. And for people who really care about the percentages, you might want to throw that in there to help with the story. Oftentimes you can get away without putting it in there, but those two things. And then you may want to show leader lines. Okay. And then we're done. There's a pretty decent graph. All right. Grab the data, build the table, generate the chart, and generally take things away. And then that's the process. Okay? So, any questions about pie charts here? All right, they're pretty simple. So what I want you to do in that demo book on P1, do the same thing. Do the same thing. Just repeat what I did. Market share for the top 5 studios in January of 2013. Okay, and I'll come around and give help when needed.